told him like 2 winters ago, I go, I can do that, and I got in, it was freezing cold, I didn't, I'll go back and I go, I'm done.
Don't need to do that again.
I don't need to get to work that bad.
Good to know. There was a cab that came up for sale on Facebook Marketplace here early this fall, and I should have jumped on.
I just got a content of this meeting is being sent to a third party notice for what it's worth. Maybe that's a good thing.
I think it's the YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep. I think we are recording.
We're
good.
All right. Well, let's dive in. Good evening. Welcome to this final meeting of the Cumberland County Finance Committee at 5:11 this evening on Tuesday, January 21st. We'll take care of a little bit of business before we go. First off, let's just introduce ourselves so we know who's in the room. And Gailey, I'll start with you on the end.
All right, Jim Gailey, County Manager.
Commissioner Smith.
Bob Dale, Cumberland Town Council.
Dustin Ward, Select Board of Lawson.
Jenna Salima, Councilor in Falmouth.
Steve Gordon, County Commissioner.
Teresa Grover, Finance Director.
We've got 2 online, so if you would just shout out. Tim, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Tim Thompson, Town Council from Cape Elizabeth.
And Alex Kimball, Deputy County Manager.
Thank you all for being here. Approval of the minutes. We all got minutes of the December 10th meeting last year, so I'll take a motion to approve those unless you have any questions beforehand.
I would be moved to adopt as presented.
Second.
All right, a motion, a second, any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Ms. Borzio, thanks. Manager Gailey, any public comment that we've received?
We have not received any comment.
All right. Staff budget update. I know there's a few things probably lingering out there, but I'll hand it over to you, Manager Gailey. Any budget updates or things you want to update this group on?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for taking the time and sending those questions. Gave staff a couple of weeks in advance to provide some answers for you, and I do have copies of them if anyone wants to refer back to them this evening. But we were able to take a look at those questions, provide those answers, and hopefully kind of met your request. And if not, we'll have a dialogue tonight about it. Other than that, Alex and I have talked about the status of the current budget. As we started off by saying the first meeting, we will be kind of looping back around, looking at revenues, particularly the jail revenues, in hopes of maybe adjusting the budget for this meeting. Alex and I have talked, and we don't feel as though there's any movement upwards of the revenues that we can do at this time. It's just way too early. And with the uncertainty of the jail revenues, particularly from the U.S. Marshal Service and ICE, only a day removed from the inauguration, we really don't have a clear understanding of where we sit in the eyes of the federal government. And I make that statement just by reverting back to a couple of weeks ago. You may have seen a Press Herald article talking about Cumberland County being on that limited classification with ICE. That was in an internal memo that was leaked out to the press, I guess. And so,
Sanctuary.
yeah, we play ball, but we don't play ball, and they call this a sanctuary county. We have had dialogue with the sheriff's office. The sheriff has even brought it up to the county commissioners at the last meeting that he doesn't consider himself a sanctuary agency, nor do the commissioners consider themselves a sanctuary county. There's been never a vote or even a topic brought forth for commissioner dialogue. So with that uncertainty on whether that is enough and whether that limited participant status is going to be okay or hurt us, we are in the mind frame that we don't adjust anything just yet, as it's too early to tell, unfortunately. One thing that we do have is still a little bit of time We are slated to meet with the county commissioners in a workshop on February 3rd, which gives us another week and a half, but more importantly, there is an opportunity, because we don't bring this budget before the commissioners for final approval until February 18th. So about a month, to see whether we learn anything more than what we know today. So with that, I really don't have anything more to add. We would love to take on any questions that the committee may still have concerning this budget, and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you for that. Questions from this group? Go ahead.
And Jim, just a quick follow-up to that, those remarks. If there are carryable funds from the previous year's budget, are they allocated in a particular manner? Is there opportunity to fund things? I know we have to send a check back to the town, but if you don't have carryover, additional revenue, I think you get.
We tend not to have additional revenue, and if it is, it's very little. Those years that we do have carryover, and it really was during COVID, we would bring to the commissioners a list of capital projects, one-time costs that we would hope that it would be funded to offset the next year's budget, because they would just be capital items that we'd be putting in on the tax rate the next year. So that's what we would typically do. But over the last couple of years, our budgets have been razor thin, and we lost $700,000 in the jail last year alone. So it takes a little bit of savings on other budgets to make up for that.
Other questions?
If I could just run back the questions I raised, just to put some context around it. As a first-time finance committee member, certainly I feel like I'm bringing out of a fire hose and have a lot of questions. But I did take my questions back to my town as well, the town of Falmouth, and checked in with the manager. And I just want to say two things back to you. One, the health department, which was one of the areas that I questioned, he saw a great value for the county to play a role in opioid settlements, for example, and in other health matters too. So those were my questions. I certainly not representing the town, so I was really reassured by that. And the other question around the fire department, I think some of the communities, and certainly Falmouth, is very hopeful that what we're standing up here at the county level is going to have some long-lasting impact across the towns, to the extent towns step up and are willing to sort of work with the recommendations. So we're really looking forward to having both those impacts play out for our community. So again, thank you very much for those good responses, and also your team did a phenomenal job bringing somebody as green as me just up to speed so quickly with their specific budgets. So I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And one thing I want to expand on the public health is you saw a little bit of the director's salary being shifted from the opera this year into the general fund budget. That is going to be not the case for the majority of growing public health. If public health grows, it's going to be because we just went out and got another grant. They're phenomenal grant writers, as you heard Liz talk about that evening. And they're always thinking of ways of providing additional services, but it's always, what grant can we go get? And so this department's going to be very heavy. We already have nine employees covered by grants or by the opioid settlement funds. And so there's very limited exposure there on the general fund from public health. And so that's what our thoughts are moving forward, is that it's going to be more grant funds being supportive of additional services that.
You don't think in the administration you'll find many barriers with grants if they are not tied to specific issues?
That could be, absolutely. The one thing that we do have is we're in year two, I think it's year two of a 10-year grant from the state of Maine. So we do have the base.
Okay.
So it's like anything over that, we grant from that, whether it's foundation grants, state grants, federal grants.
Other questions? I have a question for you. I have a note here about state valuation will come out in January and affect the overall number. Am I right in assuming that the state valuation has come out yet, or that is later?
That is anytime, probably
Okay.
over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will get a one pager, from the state with every community and their 2025, values. And then that's what we use, to figure out what the tax impact per community is.
Yeah, the note had already come out for you.
And now, we've received many emails from town managers saying, hey, what's my tax impact? And is it, you're still in the 7%? And we have to explain to them, it's just not 7%. It could be, you could be 3%, or you could be 15%, depending upon how much your community has grown compared to other communities within the county on assessment value.
State aid education is tied to that number too. It's not the local numbers, it's the state's number.
Any other questions? Tim as well. Any other questions on your end, virtual? All right. So as we wrap up, I would be curious if this group has any final recommendations. I wrote some notes and I can repeat them out loud. But for this finance committee, Tim, any final thoughts, things you want to leave with manager and group before we step away and let it go?
I think 7% is a high number. You know, when I was talking to my own town manager on the way down, and, you know, it's easy to, when everybody's employed, it's easy to absorb a raise, a budget increase, or tax increases. And I said, I'm not sure that the good times are going to continue, and, you know, I think part of our analysis or the lens we put on that is making sure that the work that the manager does, or the county does, is providing more services, more combination of effort that reduce the local expense. And we're beginning those conversations with Falmouth, and we're reaching out to others in our direct compass line, if you will. But I would hope that the county government does the same thing and begins to. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. I look forward to this new fire position, this public safety, whatever you want to call it, position. But we might want to make sure that there's metrics applied to what he's doing. That there's some direct measurables. What is your plan in 6 months? What is your plan in a year? 18 months. Bring the commissioners concrete suggestions on how to consolidate services, what can the county do? We listen to the fires, I hate to get all over the place. LA Fire, well, that's a county organization, and I know we're struggling with that, but we have to really look at our rescue operations, our fire operations, our police operations, and frankly, public works. Anyways, I can't say that the budget is a bad budget. It meets the needs of the people, meets the needs of the county, and at the end of the day, it was good.
And if I could, I agree with you, Bob. Teresa, Alex, and I are not happy bringing a 7% budget. It's something that we're the 4% range county, and I think this year's an abnormal year. Just had a lot of things converge on us. We didn't have a lot of wiggle room, and so it doesn't feel good bringing a 7.5% budget to this committee or the commissioners. So I share your comments. Relative to partnering up and doing things regional, the county is always willing to sit at a table and figure that out. We take an approach that We're not there trying to tell the towns what they should be doing. We listen to the towns and we react, and if further collaboration needs to happen, we're all in. I think we've done it with fire, we've done it with GA, we've done it with assessing, and there are many other services out there, animal control, code enforcement, that are some of the conversation pieces some towns are having. So we're always available, and we're always a convener or a willing partner with anything the towns want to join in with us.
Any other? Yeah.
If I could, I mean, this is our chance to bring in the ask list or whatever. I really see such value for the work the county is doing to be sort of a little bit more transparent to the communities, the towns. And I think, us, serving on the council, I'm not sure what if Bob would feel the same way, but we would welcome, a half an hour presentation once a year from commissioners or from county manager. I think it's so important for us to hear what is going on, but also when we're thinking about how do we collaborate better, it's very difficult for the management arm of the government to come up with these ideas. It's much easier, and I think you need political will too, and that's where, the elected officials should be hearing and sort of coming up with ideas as well. Without any hesitation, when I check in with our town government, they're very appreciative of the work of the county, but I feel like maybe we're not leveraging county government or JPCOG or whatever to the extent we can in terms of regionalization. And it's very hard for one town to be over the other, and it's laborious and it takes forever, but if you all come up with some bold ideas or you generate bold ideas in a town level meeting, I think we could get places. And I spent many years in California and have familiarity with county government. You barely hear about the town government. It's a big town government. It just feels like maybe it's time we get thinking that way, because all of labor costs, et cetera, just going up. And it's becoming more and more unaffordable to middle income people to be continuing in their homes. And so we've got to break the paradigm a little bit more and quicker. So that's my big wish.
Right, yeah. Any other final recommendations, thoughts, wish list item? Yeah. Well,
Management is tired of setting it's the cost of jails. This, and what we have been told with the county commissioners, is that the governor's going to flat fund us again. And that's the third year in a row. Well, this is an encompassing figure, aggregate figure for all of you. We figure mandates jail, the state has us on, is about $32 million, which they're responsible for paying. They're only getting $4. So that other, it's got to be covered by counties, unless we don't perform a mandate. We're certainly going to perform mandates, because a lot of it's mental health, taking care of the homeless, and things like that get brought in, substance abuse. And I hate to sound like we're whining, but it's money that we all have to make up, and the property tax. That's now, we are beginning to partner better with Maine Municipal Association, and so we're making that push. But anything you can do at the community level to reinforce that the state needs to cover the mandates.
I appreciate that, yeah.
Well, just to follow up, Jan's comments, I think are very important. Dustin and I were just talking about our new legislators getting elected, and the failure for them to come into the community, to the town council, and say, what are your needs for the next 2 years? What can you do to help? So, it's kind of, we all need to be in the same room. We all need to talk the same language. we need our legislatures to go back to Augusta and say, this is the needs of the community, this is the needs of the county. And, you know, if we took all the legislators that were in Cumberland County, there would be a voice. And it's getting them, you know, and I guess somebody needs to initiate that conversation. Let's get in the same room. You know, and have the county commissioners present what the shortcomings are and the difficulties. And like you say, it's all coming out of the property tax. I beat that one for a while too, but I won't.
Okay.
Do we have the legislators come to talk to the county at all? Do we have a legislative day session with them?
The county? No, we have, our Director of Public Affairs, has, individuals that he talks to off and on, but we don't have a meeting per se.
Is that-
We used to have those, when I first came here. They were so scarcely, attended. We used to have luncheons, we used to have breakfast. And if there are 40 representatives and senators in the county, we would get 5. So if they really were not well attended, we even have tried to have luncheons, up at the State House where they are at, and bring in lunch for them, and we still only get a spattering of interest.
And I think it goes back to the county government in Maine has just not the same sort of visibility. So let's make it visible. Let's do double voting across the town. I think that there are so many services we're receiving at the county level, and you wonder about jails, you know, the other funding. We just see a county full, and we don't really know that this is all the things we're covering, including just the rate test case, et cetera. All those things are so critical, and I think the person is just not aware of it. But if we can get some more traction behind that, maybe York County, maybe Southern Maine has their own networking day and pull in some of our legislators. This and it's I serve on an LPC of Maine Municipal Association. And it's the same across every town. They want more share of that revenue. But, you know, we can't all be satisfied. But I think there's some hard trade-offs that we've got to make and sooner than later. Because we're just getting, gonna be hitting that brick wall if we don't act.
Hey, Jim.
Yes.
So I think every town has the opportunity to have a representative connected with the MMA. I know I'm representing Cape on the Legislative Policy Committee, and there's a subcommittee that we're working on right now that's looking at trying to come up with some recommendations for the legislature to look at different ways of raising revenue. I think the county's kind of caught in the middle. They can't raise taxes. They can't levy taxes. That's the town's responsibility. But we're getting the legislature often directs and dictates how we can raise taxes. But in a lot of the communities that were on the call today, they have much larger commercial bases than what we do. But there was a lot of complaining about how the legislature will dictate what they can and can't charge commercial properties, which impacts obviously what a town can do. And there's just a lot of different ways that, well, like, you know, a commercial property in South Portland, the town manager was on, they're restricted to what they can actually tax, like the equipment inside of a building. One of the big impacts that has an impact on towns is raising the homestead exemption. Well, you know, that's again, is something that's dictated by the legislature. As towns, we don't have any control over it. But it might be if the county doesn't have a real good connection with getting some input to the legislators, participating at the MMA level is something I'd highly recommend, and participating in the LPC, and maybe even getting a representative. They're open to more representatives on this subcommittee making recommendations on some tax changes that might be worthwhile for you towns representatives to consider.
But thank you, Seth. Any other recommendations, thoughts? Wish list? Only add a couple things. One, I think overall, manager, if I were to say straight up, we have got to all of us got to do a better job of explaining how each of our towns are impacted personally with a budgetary concept numerically of the good work you all do and then how we see it in a budget. Because I have so many board members and community members who I don't think connected to. So Tim, you mentioned MMA. MMA has the same problem of connecting what does MMA do that is impactful for each of the towns on both a budgetary and a service level. Somehow we've got to get the conversation more connected because it's somewhat disjointed. And I don't think that's on the county to solve by itself. I think that's a collaboration piece. The other thing that I would encourage you, which I'll echo some of the stuff everybody else is saying, the big thing I'd encourage is you're sort of seeing it now, the use of AI. And I say that without you all getting scared that everybody's going to lose their job. I think you're going to see an improvement in the services you provide if you know how to use AI and equitably use AI. And I think that's actually going to be a help to allow you to improve services. I would say that as a tack on to, if you want to expand transparency about what you do, social media has its place. And GPCOG actually does a really good job of presenting itself and what it's doing out into the community using both social media and a public base. So if the county wants to take that step, I would say that there's a small piece of that, but the use of AI, the use of generative AI to assist in what you do, I think would be huge. And I think it'll take a burden off what you're doing now and allow you to provide some of these additional services you're looking to do. Whatever way that looks, the Axion thing I think is huge. I'm watching its stock value. I'm also watching its impact. And I think things like that are going to be a huge help. So as you think about the budget, if you can think 2-3 years down the road to soften that percentage using certain things like that, I think that's what's really going to be helpful. That's the age we're in right now. So that would be just my additive. I think all of our towns recognize that the percentage is high. I think you all know that. But I think we're willing to pay the price if we know what we get out of it. And we just got to have a better conversation of what that looks like. So that's the only piece that I would add. That helps right in my thought. Yes.
You mentioned AI, its ability to potentially soften something going forward. Do you have any sense of any town right now that's really been strong with AI and how they're using it?
That is a good question. I do not, because it is I'm still wrapping a lot of my head around it in the work, some of the work that I do. I see it able to produce documentation. I see it able to make calculations function that way. But to see a town actually do it, that's a cultural step that I'm curious if towns are both knowledgeable to do. So I don't have a good answer. I don't know if anybody else has a town that is doing it.
I actually, when I went to the National GFOA conference in Orlando in June, they had a great seminar that was on AI and how to do exactly what you guys are talking and bringing in the communities and showing more transparency and how the AI is doing. And they had a lot of different ways to do that. They were showing that some of the quick graphs with postcards. So you send out postcards to the communities. They had a whole seminar and display of it that was really fascinating to me, that I was messaging Alex and saying this is very interesting. So they are coming up with a lot of that helpful information. Right now with short staffing, I don't have time to follow through on that, but there are a lot of great things out there that do look like they could be pursued. So I'm going to another national conference in DC, so I'm sure they'll have more information.
When is that?
The very last week of June, beginning of July. I think I fly home July 3rd, so it's right at the cutoff. Unfortunately, at the end of the fiscal year, which is not great time, but
Well, it's always the future.
right.
So yeah, if you can figure out in the next 2 years what that even in the ability for it to make computation, right? A lot of our towns so much computing, bill rates, and everything else. There's integration that helps even board members see what the future could look like. Tips, or if you get an AI to help grapple with a tip, I think these are the small ways that it would become. Yeah, about,
Other counties outside of New England, one of the examples we have before us was taking 62 or 63 days to get a form through because there were multiple questions that had to be answered.
Yep.
By employing that, as soon as the form was filled out, AI took over and it would flip it right back to the individual saying, this needs to be fixed, and they've cut that time down to 30 days.
Yeah.
So now, just serving the public, things are getting through, takes those people. So your point's well taken.
yeah, and it's only
But you need numbers too. And, I've heard a word here that we're, as a commission, afraid to really use because we slack using is consolidation. People don't want to, well, it's a change. And I don't know that I trust your fire truck to come and do what my fire truck can do, et cetera. It's going to take.
I think people are ready for the conversation.
What do you think?
I think we've made the turn, 10 years ago, you're right, nobody wanted to talk about it. My fire truck's better than your fire truck, my captain's better than your captain.
When you hit with a.
You talk about mutual aid,
$2.5 million price tag because you just have to grow your department and then the next town over is not growing fast enough and then you're providing mutual aid. So we are ready, but this home rule, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
no.
This notion of home rule, it still is very strong and people, but when you see the cost benefits, you realize, oh, my property taxes can go down a little bit if I give up some of this.
Right, that's what we have to focus on is the cost savings, not the home rule, not the turf wars. Even the Republican wants to save money. It just has to be shown that we can save.
Like the biggest chuckle I get when I use, for example, is you can tell where every town line is.
Yeah.
In the snow.
Oh, yeah, yes.
But I do, and you said it's the number, right? There's an integration of, can you use AI and other tools to show the cost savings and the time savings if it were consolidation? And a lot of our departments have numbers, number of calls, how much time it takes to go on a call. You start feeding that information in, then you can start to actually show what does consolidation look like. I think that's the hardest part. I mean, if the county plays a bridge in that, that's huge. Sort of help us bridge the consolidation factor, visualizing what it would look like to consolidate. I think that's your goal.
We've had some future thinking that we put out here. Let me toss one figure. Back office could be consolidated well the counties. The front office wouldn't be, the people wouldn't know the difference. Look at the savings.
Right. So, and again, it's always how do you provide a service provider. At any rate, manager, that was my futuristic.
I got it all.
Thought so.
I've just been scribbling over here.
Thought so. Anything else before we wrap? Any final comments, recommendations, discussion? Kim, good?
Yep.
Well, we've done it all. I want to say first a huge thank you to you, manager, for the work that you've done. You, Alex, for continuing to just steadfast. I've been with you almost 4 years doing this, and you guys impress me each and every year. So thank you. Teresa, your commitment as well with the office of just being here for our meetings and providing insight. And for you commissioners, I don't envy your position and decision making. You've got a lot on your plate, but I know you do it with the utmost. So really appreciate that. Colin, it's always a pleasure. So big thank you to you all. So it's been another great year. Any other last comments before we adjourn this evening?
Sorry. Never miss a chance. Go ahead, Bob.
I would also thank the sheriff, district attorney, and the public safety, dispatch, all those people that made a presentation. They showed their depth of their professionalism and how much of a good job they do.
And I echo everything you just said, Rob. My only regret is that this is my last year on council, I'm turned out. And so I have given a junior council member the advice, try and get on this committee sooner, so you have at least 2 years, because I think that's when you add value. This is just after a lot of questions and, good for the fire, as they say. But please, the invitation to Falmouth is always open. Please come by and tell us what's going on.
I just want, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just wanted to say I appreciate being able to participate in this process. I don't think Cape's done it for a couple of years, so it was very enlightening for me, and I plan on going back and sharing even more once everything's finalized, the process and what our contributions mean and how they're very effectively utilized by the county. So it's been an eye-opening opportunity for me, and I appreciate all of that. I appreciate you, Jim, and your staff. It's been nice to get to know some of the other representatives on this, but overall was very helpful for me, and I think I'll be able to share a little bit more information with our town, so they're more enlightened as well. So thanks all around.
Yes, thank you. Just want to say thank you to all of you serving on this committee, because I know as a former city council person, you guys have long meetings, a lot of different things, a lot of subcommittee meetings for your own town, and to leave your town and come and think at the county level, we really appreciate it. It's extra time you're putting in to serve your constituents, and I also really appreciate all of the, I guess, pointed questions and also like little nudges and ideas for the future. Gain a lot by hearing those different voices and what you've brought to all of the meetings you've been here, and I really appreciate that. It helps us a lot getting out and moving forward, so thank you.
Welcome. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Manager, any thoughts from you?
No, I echo Commissioner Smith's thank you to you all. We asked for you to kind of do double duty for a couple of months, local and county level. And it's always nice to have some set of eyes on our budget. We get ingrained into our budget so often, and to have some fresh eyes and some eyes that aren't in the weeds as much as we are and ask questions, we really appreciate that. And so thank you for your time this Finance Committee season.
All right, anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
We have a recommendation first.
You're taking over.
Just a little detail in there.
All my recommendations, here's what I've written down in my recommendation.
But it could be as a simple motion and vote too.
Oh,
So whatever you want, however you want to style it.
all right. How would you like to style? One single motion that states all the final recommendations that we stated here today.
I think Candace is dying to edge, so.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll move to recommend the budget as presented by the Cumberland and departments.
Excellent. Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Any discussion? We've done a lot of that. All right, all those in favor of presenting as read? All right, passes 4-0. Now, I'm just excited. Now I'll take a motion for adjournment. Again, we have notes on all the other recommendations we've provided. So while we recommended the budget as presented, there's still a lot of notes here that Andrew, I can send you my notes as well, but
Sure.
you've heard it all. So, all right, motion to adjourn for this evening.
Move.
With great reluctance, I'll second it.
All right.
From experience. So.
Motion and a reluctant second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, 6:46 p.m. We are out of here. Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, Tim.
Geez, you're getting money for the extra.
Tim, thanks for accommodating my travel too.
Not a problem.
Hey,
Thanks.
Tim, it worked out for me great. So I was
Take care,
happy to hear
Alex.
that. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.